Alright, since everybody's always asking me, where's your engine, Hap? What's your engine look like, Hap? What, is it a 3-cylinder? Is it a 2? Maybe it's 1 cylinder, bruh. Alright, so thought I'd just make this little video on my Racuna van. This is what the engine looks like. This may look like a big engine hatch. It's really not. This is my hand. So you're looking at like maybe 2 feet by 2 feet, maybe, and it's not really perfect square. I don't know why they did that. So this is a E07A single, I believe it's a single overhead cam, all aluminum engine. Definitely early 90s technology. I guess this is a 94, so it's like mid, but early 90s technology. This is a carbureted model, so you've got your carburetor here. You've got your fuel line there in red. In fact, it's fraying a little bit, so I need to probably think about replacing this at some point. You've got your alternator here, which you can actually kind of read on. There's probably a date on there. And then back here, we've got our AC compressor stuffed in there. Sorry, it's upside down. It's R134. Sorry, I paused the video. You've got your air filter box on the other end of this piping. The air filter box is very complex, and even I don't fully understand how it works, because when you go and look underneath the car, there's like an immense amount of tubing going into the frame and everything. So I really don't know 100% where the air is getting sucked in. It could be anywhere. But yeah, that's where that goes. You've also got your recirculation valve here. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm still learning mechanics. So you've got a vacuum here. I think this is for one of the idles. I think there's 2 or 3 different idle controls in this car, because you have one for normal idle, then you have one for AC, and I think that's it. There might be one more, but I don't remember. You've got your distributor and distributor cap assembly there. Your ignition coil is actually way back here in like a little box that has a little fan that cools it off. It's like a little electric cooling fan. It's kind of cool. These are not original, these little like tie-offs. So this has been worked on, which is okay, which is probably a good thing, because the clutch in this feels really good for over 70,000 miles. You got your spark plug wires, your plugs, your head, your valve cover here. I'm only assuming this has had a new gasket set put on it before, because normally they don't have like this kind of overhang here where the gasket is. So it kind of makes me feel better. You've got your timing belt on this side. It is belt driven, not chain driven. And then you also have a alternator belt here, that's its own belt, and then you also have a AC compressor belt, that's its own belt. So you have 3 belts total in this tiny little 3-cylinder. Yes, that is a 3-cylinder. You've got your throttle cable here, random ass vacuum that goes back here into this. It's like a vacuum control box. I never want to have to mess with that, hopefully. Probably will though. This is your transmission. Got a little label here for that. There's your little E07A. I have had to take this transmission off. Me and my buddy Ethan took it off before to do a clutch job in my truck, not the van, but in the truck. Same setup. You've got your starter down here. I think we've got some radiator hose here. Yeah, I got radiator hoses here. We've got like our main wiring loom here that kind of runs around. We've got low pressure AC. We've got the high pressure AC. They're labeled. What else can I show y'all here? We've also got our let's see, we've got our, I'm trying to remember which one is which. We've got this transmission arm, this arm back here, and we've also got this one. I believe this is the clutch pedal one, and then these 2 are for the actual like gear changing, since the stick is up at the front there. It's kind of like a front wheel drive car layout, just at the back. We've got our little coolant air bubble bleeding valves. There's also one inline under the bed area, but you really can't get to it. We've also got our, we zoom in here, radiator lines that go to the front of the car, to the front. If you look down there, those little fins are. That's part of the AC system. Got a little heat shield there. Again, we get the vacuum box. Just a bunch of hoses and old school looking stuff. Our exhaust actually comes out here and then wraps to the right side, and it's underneath here, so this kind of gets a little bit warmer than that side does. The whole entire system actually sits off to the left a little bit, and then the exhaust wraps around the right, and then has this little actually it's not little, it's huge. It's got a big muffler here, and then it comes out, the exhaust comes out on that side at the bottom below the bumper. In fact, below the bumper in the back is the entire muffler, so it's pretty big. Sorry, there's a motorcycle somewhere that's being loud. So yeah, we've also got, I believe, I'm trying to remember which one of these is which. This needs to be popped back into place, actually. I can get this in here. I can tinker with that later. Yeah, so one of these is actually for the cable. One of these is a speedometer cable sleeve, and then the other one is for the gear changing cable right here, and it kind of wraps around. If you look down here, that's your speedometer cable. It is a pain to put back on if you have to take it off to do the transmission. So good luck, because I drove my truck without a speedometer cable working for like 3 months because I wasn't able to put that back on for a while. So good luck if you ever have to do that. I'm trying to think of anything else. Doing like valve cover gaskets and stuff isn't too bad. It's right here. A head gasket's probably going to be harder to get to because you've got to take the whole intake manifold off here, but it doesn't seem too impossible. There's going to be a lot of stuff on this car that's probably easier to do if you were to just take the motor out. The motor is only held in by 3 mounting points. There's one here that you take off. Actually, I think it's part of this, I think. But you actually take it off to do the timing belt, so that one's fairly easy to take off. The one in the rear is probably the hardest one to take off. It's typically very, very stuck on there. And then you've got one, if I can find it, that's here, back down there. That one's also fairly difficult to take off. Not impossible, but it's that aluminum. You gotta be careful not to de-thread. So yeah, that's pretty much everything in here. I have yet to take out my carburetor because I actually want to take out this carburetor and put in the 2 electrically controlled fuel and air cut solenoids, I believe was what there are. I know they're both like vacuum like this, so they do wear out fairly often, and then if they do wear out, this thing does not run very well, if at all. I also want to replace all of these vacuum hoses just because of age. So that's another thing, but I'm eventually going to take this out. It's the fact that this has coolant running through it that's kind of makes it a pain, but it's whatever. Also, you've got your battery box here, which is going to actually be in another video where I'm doing the AC system, a little quick video on how to do that. And then in this hatch here, you've got a rear heater core / blower motor with a vent here, and that's your rear heater system. So yeah, don't think there's much else to talk about. If you have any questions, leave a comment on this. I just thought I'd make a little quick video because so many people ask, you know, how does my engine look, or how does it work, how big is it? This is it. And it's not a rear engine technically, even though I'd consider it a rear engine. It's actually a midship engine because the wheels are right here. The rear axle actually kind of goes out in the back end, and then you've got your CVs that come out of the transmission here. So this side, it has a longer CV than this side, and it's technically a midship because the whole engine sits just barely in front of the rear assembly. So I guess it's technically a mid-engine, but whatever. But yeah, if y'all have any questions, let me know. The fuel filter also, normally on the trucks, it's like right here below the bed. It's a pain to get to. It's also a pain to get to on this, and I still need to change mine. But if you crawl under that door, because the coolant overflow, I think it's the coolant overflow tank, and then the reservoir for the spray bottles is right there. And below that, if you crawl under the car, you can actually see the little fuel filter. So that's where that is. It's kind of a pain, but these don't tend to break down often if you just check them. There is a little bit of coolant seepage I'm getting over here where the distributor is, so I may need to fix that, but it's not too bad where I'm worried about it right now. I just need to keep an eye on my coolant levels. But other than that, yeah, if y'all have any questions about like what parts y'all might need, like spark plugs, plug wires, clutches, carburetors, you can only get like rebuilt ones or ones off Yahoo Auction, so those are kind of harder to get. Honestly though, this is when they started doing the fuel injection stuff. I actually had a chance to look at a XI model of the van, and that one had fuel injection, so it's definitely something that you could consider putting in. It's probably not easy to put in though, so if the carburetor breaks, your best bet's just to get a used one. Maybe even test fit something aftermarket. But yeah, hope y'all enjoyed this little video I made here. Hope maybe you learned something from this. But yeah, y'all have a good one. See ya.